Mike Rogers may or may not be replaced in 2026. Terri LaPoint is trying to replace Mike Rogers in Alabama's 3rd Congressional District. She joins me now. Thank you so much, Terri, for being on the program.
Thank you for having me, Cameron. Appreciate it.
What is it like to run for Congress against an incumbent?
Well, there's a lot of people that say, well, he's got millions of dollars, but there's the messaging and there's how long he's been in office. A lot of people are looking for somebody new, somebody fresh to really make a difference for families and for the people in this district.
Is there something in particular that you've seen with his leadership that you find to be an issue?
Well, it's more lack of focus on things the issues that really truly impact families, the things that impact everyday people, just people on the street, people in the communities. I don't see him really fighting and tackling those issues that really matter to people in our everyday lives. The things that really matter, the people that are the things that people look to government to do the right things and to have common sense solutions. So I think it's more a lack of that kind of leadership that is being seen.
And you have a background in investigative journalism. Typically, journalists try to not end up running for office themselves. What is it about that investigative journalism background that you feel could really help you and help Alabama's 3rd Congressional District?
It's a good question. Because I love to investigate, I want to know the truth. I want to know what's really happening. So that pushes me to not just settle for the status quo, to look deeper and to see what's really going on, what's driving things. And the old journalism adage, follow the money. Well, following the money has led me straight to Washington, D.C. and federal funding that provides perverse financial incentives for states to do the wrong thing. And they had the ability to provide good incentives for states to do the right thing. And that's what I would like to see changed. And I think my journalism background of research and documentation, looking at the numbers, looking at the facts, and hearing the stories, being able to see the human side, the humanity, I think that makes me a good candidate for fighting for people. We're exposing the truth, exposing government corruption. I've done a lot of that. And that's something that I think most of America is looking for not only for government corruption to be exposed, but for something to be done about it.
And let's start with what can be done about it through your policy platform. And we're going to start with ending child trafficking. You've done extensive reporting on these matters. What have you learned about child trafficking in America that can potentially help inform you in public policy?
For many years, I think, like most Americans, we think of child trafficking as something that happens over there, somewhere, not here, not right here in our communities, in our own backyard, in our states, in conservative states, in liberal states. It's happening right here. And the thing that I found out over years of research was, and the Department of Justice even said it, I will never forget reading this, that the largest supplier of children for the child sex trafficking industry in America is the foster care system. That's crazy. That system is supposed to protect children from abuse, but they are literally contributing to the abuse. They're providing children for that industry. And if we can step in and protect children from being taken that shouldn't be taken, because that's a lot of it, and then we can do a better vetting of the homes. I mean, many times we're actually placing children into homes with sex offenders, into homes with traffickers. And that's appalling. We're paying for that with our tax money, Social Security money to to be exact. That comes out of Title IV money, which is Social Security money. So we, the taxpayers, get to pay for the trafficking of children. That's appalling. Should never happen. And there are things we can do about it. We can change the funding structure, and we can put teeth into some of the federal laws, and we can insist that states truly vet the foster families and adoptive families. And if they don't, and if they're caught putting them in homes with traffickers, we can withhold federal funding from those states, and states won't like that. So it will incentivize them to do the right thing.
Which individuals in particular, you mentioned the foster care system, which individuals are really contributing to child trafficking? Is it a set of individuals, or you think it's an entire system issue?
The system is the way it's set up. I'll never forget this, a lady, Marissa Hamilton, who ran for mayor of Phoenix, Arizona. And I was talking to her about the system being broken. She said, Terri, I don't think it's broken. I think it's working exactly as it was designed to do. And the design is very flawed. It doesn't truly help the children who need it most. Yes, we have children who are abused. They exist. Child abuse is a crime. It needs to be investigated as a crime. But many times we're seeing kids taken without good reason and false allegations. And you were asking different about the individuals. One set of people that I have come across that is involved a lot in is responsible for taking a lot of children from their families is a group called child abuse pediatricians. These are doctors that are in every one of our children's hospitals, all of them. And they don't function like regular doctors. They're supposed to determine whether something is abuse or not. Well, that sounds well and good, but there's confirmation bias. They tend to find abuse where none exists. They're federally funded through Health and Human Services. They're not experts in anything. And they have been behind many, many of these stories that I've covered. And in fact, there was just before Thanksgiving, the New Jersey Supreme Court issued a ruling and about some faulty science behind some of their decisions. And they called out these child abuse pediatricians and pointed out something I've been saying for years, that the social workers and judges are listening to these child abuse pediatricians and ignoring the real medical experts who actually know what they're talking about. So that's just one part of it, but it plays into the entire industry. And I've done a deep dive on the history of the child abuse industry. And these doctors, the pediatric radiologists who became the child abuse pediatricians, that goes back to 1974 and earlier, with the whole child abuse legislation capped in 1974, and the Battered Child Syndrome movie and book that informed a lot of this. And it goes back even further than that. So it's been a calculated thing. Here's something people don't realize. If a child is a foster child, if they're in the system, they can legally be used for medical research or drug testing. They're essentially lab rats. They can be used for that without their parents' knowledge or consent. So a child with a rare medical condition can be worth millions of dollars to Big Pharma. It's crazy. And kids are taken and trumped up allegations made up. So, I mean, this is one part of it. But we need to protect all of our children. And one of the things that I figured out is the federal funding, because I've done so much deep dive into that. If the federal funding is impacting that industry in such a negative way, how many more things are we impacting with federal funding that we're incentivizing to do the wrong thing? You know, we've had some changes made recently, but we need a lot more. And we need people with courage to stand up and fight for common sense solutions and quit incentivizing bad behavior.
Where do you stand on transparency relating to these matters? Because on one end, victims of child trafficking may not want certainly will not want their name out in the public. What should be done in terms of the transparency aspect in revealing child trafficking?
Well, a lot of people actually do want the bad behavior exposed. So there needs to be advocates that are allowed in. That these court things in family court is all most in most states it's behind closed doors. There's no transparency. There's nobody that can go in and hold people accountable because they do all their decisions behind closed doors under the guise of confidentiality. But what that does is provides a shroud to veil all this stuff in secrecy and hide bad behavior, so the bad actors are not held accountable. So if we can allow advocates in the courtrooms, allow advocates to come in, allow if the parents, if there are parents who want some media, maybe local media attention, let it happen. And the more we have some media attention and some advocates and some transparency on that, we're going to see less and less of this stuff happening. The system has just gone so rampant for so long, unchecked, because there is no accountability. There's only an illusion of accountability.
I'm going to bring up an issue that's happening in the news, but in terms of the Epstein files, what is your view of the federal government's handling of those files, and have they been transparent in your view on that particular issue?
Not enough. Not enough. I know an Epstein Island survivor. I've worked with her. She was actually, when she started talking about what she was remembering and what she had been through, that's when they started coming after her, trying to silence her, and they took her baby and they medically kidnapped her baby. That was the part of the story I covered. And all this other stuff she was talking about, we were just learning about Epstein back then. And all the things that she was telling me that sounded so crazy, but everything else about her child being taken was backed up 100%. So I believed her. She is fighting for some transparency. And she actually stands with President Trump, as far as she has said that he did not have any part of, she had met him, but he is not. And I've met another trafficking victim who, through their knowledge, they have defended, both of them have adamantly defended President Trump. Now, there's, with the investigations and the redactions and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we don't have all the information we need yet. We need to have a lot more information. We need to have a lot more transparency, and there need to be some arrests. And I think one of the big things is we need to see people held accountable for these atrocities to children.
So even though President Trump has been seen photoed with Jeffrey Epstein, that's not, is it confirmed that President Trump had no involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? Or
from my understanding, from what I'm seeing, is so somebody being photographed with somebody, once you start campaigning or you get involved in politics, I quickly understood photo ops, or somebody says, hey, can I take a picture? And they're in a picture. And you may be in pictures with people you don't support or have nothing in common with. So that can happen. My understanding is when President Trump found out about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, he was trying to expose him. He was trying to stop him. He did not like that. That is what my understanding has been. One victim told me that when they were being trafficked and in and out of the different places, when they went into the Trump hotel, they said, do not engage President Trump, Donald Trump, because he will shut us down. He doesn't like this. So I think that there's political posturing going on, and I don't think we have the whole truth yet, by any means. And I think that more will come out. Um, and we really need to be praying for the truth to really come out and for justice to be done, because these victims deserve justice. Absolutely.
Let's move on to your platform in terms of supporting veterans in the military. You come from, as you stated on your campaign website, from a long line of veterans in your family. What are some takeaways that you have learned from your family members that you would like to incorporate into policy?
I do know that sometimes veterans have to fight for VA benefits, for disability benefits. And I just talked with a man recently who said he filed 3 times because the first 2 times they lost his paperwork. That's just ridiculous. That's goofy. Um, in my family, I didn't see one of the problems that I see a lot of now, because I don't think it was going on so much in previous times, but where they get involved with family court, they're getting involved with custody battles for their kids. Sometimes they get involved with child protective services, and the system is really stacked against our veterans, against our military. They will use post-traumatic stress against them. They will use the fact that they were in the military against them. And I think that's despicable. In my book, Voices That Will Not Be Silenced, the grandfather in that book was a Purple Heart veteran, Purple Heart recipient. And he said that he never would have imagined that he would have to fight a harder battle for his own family here on American soil than he did fighting overseas in combat. That's crazy. And it's linked to veteran suicide as well. A lot of the veteran suicide are connected with having to fight in family court, fight for their own kids. And I don't think really very many people in Washington D.C. are putting those pieces of data together and addressing that. And we need to address that.
As a potential future member of Congress, will you have regular conversations with veterans to see what are their top issues?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want my door to be open to veterans and to my constituents. I want them to have access. One of the things that I see when I go into government, into the buildings in Congress, is a lot of the lobbyists, the big money people that seem to have such a welcome open door in many of the Congress and congressional offices. What I would like to see is the people, the citizens, have those open doors, to have those conversations, to be able to be heard, because many times the everyday person is not heard by their congressperson. And I've always wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, and to be able to communicate, take their concerns and communicate them to a larger audience, and bring those concerns to the larger body of Congress. And I'll do that. I've been doing that as a citizen. I will absolutely continue that as a congresswoman.
Let's discuss another aspect of your platform, which is government accountability. What kind of accountability would you like to see take place for the federal government?
We started off good with Doge and finding some things, exposing problems, and pulling back on federal funds. Yes, that's great. I would like to see things with teeth in it. So if you are abusing and taking funds and using them in an improper way, that it's not just a slap on the wrist, but there's actual real consequences to, in essence, stealing from the American people. I would like to see, and I don't see why we couldn't have this, build into these big government funding, like to use just Child Protective Services, CAPTA funds, Title 4E, to build into that accountability. So we have a person for each state or each region who is their job is to listen to constituents and bring those concerns and have teeth to do something about it. So if there is fraud in a case, if there is corruption in a case, that they will hear and listen to the constituents and bring that back and be able to actually do something about it. And I think if we can build the money for that person, say it's all 50 states. If we have 50 jobs that are created through that, how much money will they save the taxpayers in preventing money from being spent fraudulently? And I think we can extrapolate that to other issues, lots of other issues. Just build in the accountability.
Would there be certain programs that you would like to see cut in terms of you mentioned reducing federal funds for certain programs. Are there specific programs that you would like to see either cut or reduced to a really small amount?
The Doge exposed so much federal money that was going for really stupid stuff, like condoms in some foreign country in the Middle East, transgender education in another country. These goofy programs that most people would not fund if we had the choice to do it. Let's cut those out. Why are we funding those things? Let's take a hard look at what we're funding and eliminate those things that are not serving the American people.
How about programs that are bigger on the budget, like Medicare, Medicaid, the military budget? Do you want to take a dent at those kinds of programs too?
What I'd like to do is get rid of the fraud in those. So when it came out, how many people that are dead are still there? We're getting Medicare benefits, Medicaid, is it Medicare? And then all the illegal aliens that are getting so much money in these programs. If we can cut them back to stop funding people who shouldn't even be here, they're not here legally. Stop funding those kinds of things, cut out the fraud, cut out the waste, and then let's re-examine and see if we even need to. I mean, I feel like if we can cut out those kinds of things, we're going to be able to pay for the things we need to pay for. Because we need to take care of our citizens, we need to take care of our veterans, we need to keep the promises that were promised. I had an elderly gentleman talking to me just today about Social Security. It's like, this was promised to us. Why are they trying to cut it? You need to have what you put in. Those kinds of programs we need to keep.
So you don't believe in cutting Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security then? As a whole, you wouldn't believe in cutting, let's say, all three or even one of those programs in total?
Not in total, no. Now, like I talked about before, the Social Security money is funding Child Protective Services. We can do a whole lot there. That's a multi-billion-dollar expense that we can completely reduce and change around so that the money is supposed to be going for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, that it can be used for what the citizens thought it was going for when it was approved. And even congressmen thought it was going for at first.
One of the goals of Doge was to basically make certain cuts, and then those employees who did resign or ended up getting fired would go off to the private sector as a way to reduce tax dollars. Do you have a plan to transition individuals from the public sector to the private sector?
I think any job that you have, if you lose that job, then you go and search for another one. I mean, your background, your experience goes a long way into helping. And a lot of these things really can be funded privately. There are some of these things that really should be just, if you're organization is worth funding, a lot of times there are private organizations that will fund it. So I don't know that quite answered your question.
Well, you don't think that that making certain cuts and employees, federal employees then leaving would create an unemployment crisis, or a situation where individuals go jobless for long periods of time because it would be the private sector having to hire those individuals. So you don't think that could potentially create an unemployment crisis?
I think the free market would accommodate that. We would adjust. At almost like they are. I mean, I'm in the deep South. Years ago, our history books tell us that they said we can't eliminate slavery because it would impact the economy, and so some people had to take some hard hits. The economy in the South took some hard hits because we did the right thing and eliminated slavery, and things eventually leveled out. So there are times you're going to have to make some hard decisions and cut some things out that shouldn't be there, that taxpayers shouldn't be funding. And so I don't look at it so much as an employment issue as what are taxpayers supposed to be funding? What's our responsibility as taxpayers? And there's a lot of things we're paying for that we shouldn't be.
Last question on this topic, and then we'll get to your final thoughts. How would you respond to what would be your message to a federal employee right now who they're in a they're working on something that you would disagree with, and if you were, if you had the power in your hands, you'd want to see them go off to the private sector, but they really want to stay in the public sector. What would be your message to that kind of individual?
Well, let's look around and see if there is a place where your skills and your talents can work with something else that really is a taxpayer responsibility. Is there another place where you can still serve and you can still work and be employed, but it's something that taxpayers should be responsible for? Let's work with them. I mean, the good employees, I feel like the good employees that are really trying to help and do the right thing, that we should be able to find a way to help, to get them to help, or they should be able, if they're really good employees, they should be able to have their skills speak for themselves.
Last thing before you head on out, you could say anything you want. You want to mention your campaign website, you want anything that's on your mind, the floor is yours.
All right. So, well, I'm the people's candidate. Fighting for families is what I do. It's what I've always done. Serving. And I want to go to Washington, D.C. to serve. I don't want to be a career politician. I'm not interested in getting rich. What I want to do is make a difference. I'm married to a firefighter. We're used to finding ways to make ends meet and live within our means. And my website is terrilapointforcongress.com, or no, it's lapointforcongress.com. Terri LaPoint for Congress. Terri with an I. And then I'm on Facebook. You can Google my name, Terri, Terri LaPoint, with no E on the end. And you can see how I've been fighting and standing up for families for years. And that's what I want to do. I want to serve and make a difference and see restoration of families and see our country brought back into the constitutional, conservative values that we were established on.
Terri LaPoint, thank you so much for being on the program, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.